Hi, my name is Andrew Chang, and I'm a student at Wake Forest University. Um, During the school year, I was able to use the laser cutter at the Wakerspace, the Wake Forest Makerspace, and with it, I made some layer art. And by layer art, I mean, well, here's an example. I just cut multiple pieces of wood into part shapes of parts of the image that I and colored each layer of wood differently, and I stick them together and got a art piece that's made of different layers. And I recently made a program that sort of automates the process of tracing each parts of the image, and I wanted to share with the student of Wake Forest and others. Now, I wrote this program in Java, as you could probably tell from the .jar extension. So if you want to run this program, you would have to install Java in whatever device you're running this on. If you took a CS class at Wake, like CSC 111 or 112, you probably have Java already installed on your computer. But if you don't, you can just Google install Java and go to whichever website that pops up on the top. Now, if you have installed Java, you can just download the .jar file or the executable, depending on how I decide to release this. Just double click it, and it's gonna show you a little pop up window of like a file finder. Now, you can choose an image file that you want to create a layer art of. And by that, I mean um, the files that you choose usually work best if they're drawn and if they have very distinct colors, especially against the background. So, images like vector art, logos work the best. And I will explain why later in the video. So, say I want to make layer art of something like this. So I pick this image, and you might see that this is a little different from the original image. That's because the program divided the image into different areas based on the color of each pixel, more specifically its position on the hue saturation value color space. And the black parts you can see are all borders of certain areas. So if you click anywhere on the image, say here, you can see that it highlights the area that pixel you just clicked on is a part of. And if you want to deselect everything, you can just click clear selection and it's going to deselect it. Now, you can scroll up to zoom out, scroll in to zoom in, scroll down to zoom in, and you can just drag the image around like this. And what you can do is, if there's a bit too much, like little areas that you want to get rid of, you can set a threshold for the area and click merge smaller areas. What this does is, for example, like areas like this and this, which probably consist of only like a single or two pixels. You can click that, and it merges all those smaller areas into one of its closer, bigger areas. So for the case of the one I highlighted, it was merged to this big area. Another thing you can do is if you think the colors, the areas are not divided by color sufficiently, you can change the number of buckets. I will explain what the bucket means in the latter part, but if you're not interested in how this software works and just want to use it, just remember that if you increase the number of buckets for each characteristic of a certain color, say hue or saturation or value, what it does is that it divides the colors more minusculely depending on each characteristic. So, for example, if I have it divided more by value, what it does it so value is basically the brightness of the color. So what it does is that it divides parts that are brighter and darker more succinctly, even if those are of similar hue, like light blue and a bit darker blue. So as you can see here, if you click redivide image, but after increasing the value bucket count from 10 to 30, it divided the little bits of, say, pixel color artifacts more succinctly. But if you think there are way too many smaller areas, then you can decrease the number of buckets to decrease the amount of areas that are divided. But for the most part, you can basically just use the default values for a lot of drawn images. So what you can do is you can just select the parts that you want to be of a specific color or a specific layer and click merge selected areas. So as you can see, the darker blue parts are now merged into one singular area. Now, you might be thinking you kind of want to click merge smaller areas, but right now, if I do that, these parts are merged with these parts. That because the smaller areas that differentiated the part of the fin from this area are now merged, and so it connects this part from this, but we don't want to do that right now. So you can kind of ignore the smaller artifacts right now, and I'll show you why. Once you merged all the parts that you wanted to be a singular area in the layer art, you can click export, and it's gonna show you the areas that you have selected. So you click the area that you want to export a image of, and you click write to file, and I'll show you what that means in a bit. So you choose the name of the file name that you're going to save the image as. For example, what we saved was the blue part of the image of the whale, so let's say I just want to write whale blue. And what that does is it basically creates a picture where all of the other parts of the image are white, but the selected parts of the image are black, like this. Another useful way you could use this tool is to separate the foreground from the background by just clicking the background and clicking export. Now, you might be thinking, well, I want to select all the foreground, not the background. But if you think about it, if you write to file, you got a picture where all the foreground are white, and you can use this in layer art, as I will show you in a bit. So you have all the layers you want to be separate. You have the background, you have parts of the image that are of specific color, and now you want to make that into layer art. So how you would do that is you would import the image files that the program created. First, say you import the background. Like I said, the background is selected but not the foreground. But this doesn't matter, as I will show you in a bit. So what you do is you right click and you use trace image, and you click OK. You ungroup and you get rid of, say, this and the border. Now you just got a trace of the foreground image. Let's say that I want to also differentiate the parts that were blue. So I just add this. I just click trace image. If there are a bit of like little artifacts, what you can do is just you can use ignore less than certain size and make that a reasonable size. 30 sounds nice. This means ignore any, say, blobs of different pixel values that are smaller than 30 pixels. Click OK, and now what it did, it created basically a trace of only the parts that are blue. Now you basically have laser cutting instructions for two different layers, and what you can do is click, say, the foreground layer, have it a different layer, and then have the laser cutter cut only black, get another laser cutter, have the laser cutter cut blue, and super glue the blue layer wood on top of the background layer wood, and you got layer art. I'm Unfortunately I cannot show an example of this because I don't have a laser cutter and I'm at home, but I'm sure you guys at the Wakerspace can figure this out. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial.